It's a Bourbon's conference champion team that capped the greatest season ever with a victory over New Providence in the game on Thanksgiving Day. This is also the 50th year of Summit Youth Football, which competes each season in a league of over 20 teams and has reached the Super Bowl numerous times in its illustrious history. The 1,000-member Summit Football Alumni Association was formed in 1992 and is now in its 30th year. Since its start, the SFAA has contributed every year to the Summit Youth Football program. Most of the youth coaches played for the Summit Hilltoppers. Please join us in giving a big congratulations for all of these fantastic milestones of Hilltopper history. Let's have one more round of applause for our alumni and a special thank you to Alex Pacino and the Summit High School Marching Band and Lexi Calvert and Nikki Griffith and the Summit Cheerleaders for joining us for our ceremony today.
During the off-season, we talked about anniversaries this year. It turns out there are 4 anniversaries of Summit Football that we're going to celebrate tonight and this weekend. The first one is 130 years of Summit Football. Someone asked me, why aren't we waiting to 150? Because I'd be 101. So we're going to try that and let someone else do 150 when it comes to that. When I think of Summit Football, I think of a spirit that I'm sure other coaches here will talk about and that you feel and I see as everybody's saying hello to each other and so on and so forth. But right now, our Summit Football is in the hands of, in my opinion, and I'm pretty close to it, the best coaching staff in the state of New Jersey. And I'd like to have our head coach, Kevin Costabas, stand up, please.
Coach Costabas.
I would like to have the other coaches stand up, including Leroy and Drew, please. We also are celebrating 50 years of Summit Youth Football, the lifeblood of the program. I think everybody would agree that that's the truth. This goes back to 1972, and a man named Dom Guida. We were an intramural program, and I talked to Dom, and Dom said, we have to form some league like the Suburban Conference of Youth Football, and we did. We formed the Suburban Youth Football League in 1972, Summit, Berkeley Heights, Milburn, South Orange, Springfield, and the 2 Chathams. No, they weren't in there at that time. It wasn't a true suburban conference, but it was all teams that were close to us that had developed good rivalries. On table 1 is Kevin Fagan, who is the head of Summit Youth Football and has been for several years and doing a fantastic job. Kevin, stand up, Kevin, stand up. It's a tough job. It's a tough job. And about 5 or 6 years ago, when we had some issues, not we in Summit, but football had issues, we changed our program. For years it was 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 tackle, and then going on to freshman and varsity. We changed it, and we made K through 5 flag, and then just 6, 7, and 8 tackle. And it was a good move. The younger people got an idea of what football was about without, the contact. And then 6, 7, and 8. And last year we had 20 teams in the Suburban Youth Football League, and Summit 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teams made the final Super Bowl. 2 of them won, and 1 lost by 1 touchdown. So it was a fantastic year for Summit football. And we always have maybe one or 2 teams. And Kevin and his coaches do a great job. And most of the coaches are hilltoppers. And have played it at Summit High School, and they know the spirit of Summit football. The 3rd anniversary, 50 years, 1972, is the 72 team that was undefeated. After 63 was the first undefeated team since 1928. And then 1972, undefeated, and who can forget the New Providence game? Yes. The year before, the team lost 1 game to New Providence. So it was a little payback time, and it's like Babe Ruth's 60th home run. There were about maybe 15,000 people there, but 150,000 say they were there. And it was 15. And it was a great game, and it was a great team, and we're going to honor them tonight as well at the end of the program. On a personal note, the Summit Football Alumni Association was formed exactly 30 years ago as well. And everybody that's here that's a hilltopper is a member of that association. And we try to support the football team and give them things that maybe aren't in the budget. The parents are fantastic, they really are. They raise a lot of funds for their dinner and those shirts that you saw at the field today and so on and so forth. And we try to fill in the things that aren't part of the budget or that the parents are doing. And this is a good example of it. The Alumni Association this year purchased the throwback shirts that you saw. They weren't exactly the shirts that were used exactly in 1972, but we usually have maroon shirts at the home, and we had our white ones in honor of the 1972 team. And they've been donated to the program so that maybe something else when the budget comes up next year can be given by the school system to the football program, because they have a set of jerseys now that they can use, and they're good. The Summit, it's amazing to me the amount of volunteers there are in every aspect of Summit, whether it be sports or whatever. And on table 2, we have a circle of volunteers, starting with fan number 1. Would you stand up, please? Yes, sir. Andy I said stand up, please. Thank you, Andy. Thank you for everything, Andy. Nothing else exists. Steve Pardee, for 30 years, kept stats on football, baseball, basketball, you name it. And he's with us tonight as well in retirement from his job as statistician. Steve Pardee. And other people at that table are also volunteers. Hank Gibson was a volunteer during his youth football and freshman football last year. Peter Walsh is a scout, does a great job for us, along with Phil Scheiposh and Bill Nagar. And actually, fan number 2 would be Hoot Gibson, Hank's father and mother. Table 5, when I talked to Kevin, we tried to get class agents. So I started with my class. It turned out the only people left were Tony Cardone, Mike Yannicone, and myself. Everyone else was gone. And we said, oh, this is going to be awful. We won't have a table of 50s. And we do. And it's quite a table. On table 5, raise your hand first, please. Table 5. All right. Here's now, some of you younger guys won't know these names, but almost everyone will. Willie Mallory. Stand up, Will. Larry Lockhart. Eddie Billow. I'd like to tell you a story about Eddie. The 100-year reunion, we needed a place to go, and Eddie had villas in East Hanover. We never talked about the transaction, the business part of it. He said, I'd love to have it. It'll be a great night. We had 500 people, and it was a super night. We had the coaches, as we will have tonight, talk about their teams and so on. So at the end of it, I hated to ask him, but I said, Eddie, we owe you some money. He said, this has been one of the best nights of my life. No charge. He said, just give me the money, some cash for my tip the people that were there. And Eddie said, the rest is on me. And next to Eddie is Mike Papio. Mike, stand up. Mike is the only person, I don't know if you remember the New Jersey Titans. It was a semi-pro team that played in Summit, and it was fun to watch. Mike was the only person in that league, as far as I know, in the United States, that played quarterback and defensive tackle. And very well. And one thing you don't want to do with Mike is shake hands with him. He never lifted a weight. He's the strongest person I ever met. Mike Papio. And someone that mentored a lot of youth in Summit through youth football and just common sense as the world went by, Phil Ryan, Sr. If we ever needed anything, we'd ask Phil, and he made sure we got it.
That's me.
And by the way, I'm not going to try to name everybody. And if you're not named or your team isn't named, get over it. Right, Bus? Okay. Next are the 60s. The 60s. And this is not good. This is table 6. We not only have players from the 60s, but we have their sons who played at Summit. Dan Nelson, Michael Nelson.
Dan Nelson, Michael Nelson.
You there? Raise your hand. John Martini and John Martini.
Mark Wilson. I got his.
In the history of Summit football, in the 130 years, one of the kids on the team last year said, "Were you on the first team?" He asked me. Sometimes I feel that way. I said, "No, I wasn't." But thanks for the compliment, if it was a compliment. The best defensive backfield in the history of 130 years of Summit football. El Cidi, Rhines, known as Rhines, Mallory, and Cromwell. Stand up, please. And we have one of their coaches from that era. He coached from 62 to 66, Ed Topar. Howie used to say, when he had Rhines, Cromwell, and Mallory, he could play that up front, the 8. He didn't need 4 people back. He played the up front, the 8, and he knew things were taken care of in the backfield. Now we go to the 70s, and we'll start with table 15. Where are we? The back? They had a state championship or a conference championship, I think state too, in 1976. And am I right, man? 76? Yes? Okay. And we go to the 80s. In 1980, we really had 3 groups. The first thing in 1980, which you're probably aware of, and many of you were there as well, was 1980, Giant Stadium. And the victory over Rawley, 10-7.
Oh, God.
And they're at table number 10. Where are you? Stand up, please. That was quite a game. Also in the 80s, in table 7, would you stand up? Table 7?
How you doing?
Table 7.
Good.
There they are. And they had a state conference championship in 1985. Is that correct?
Anywhere near
85. Good. I want to go back to the 70s just for a second, because there's someone that in the history of Summit football, the name is well known, and he's here tonight, Kevin Phelan. I think one of his brothers played with 1 year, and then his father moved. I think, was it Pennsylvania? Yeah, so we lost the brothers, but we had the main man, Kevin. Now we go into the 80s, and there's really two steps to it. The coach in the late 80s and early 90s, Jim Benedict, and Jim is here. Jim?
Jim Benedict.
In the early part, it was a surprise. It wasn't a surprise when you think about it, but Jim took over for Howie. Howie wanted the best man he could possibly get. As far as I'm concerned, he got him. Because after 1 year of adjustment, 1988, under the captaincy, if that's a word, of Darryl Fusco, we had a state championship. Where's Darryl?
What about, don't forget Flaw, he actually played it.
What's that?
Flaw played a lot more than that.
Flav's got a big ego. And Darryl Fusco, Darryl, stand up, please. No, stand up, please. Stand up again. All right. Darryl is the coach of Mountain Lakes, and he just got his 100th win as a head coach. And Flav, you're still number one, don't worry. That was 1988, and we had a conference championship in 89. And then Jim got into the 90s with that same team, well, another team, of course, but in the same league. And in 1990, we won a conference championship in 92 and a state championship, and a conference champion in a undefeated state champion team, 1993. And anybody that played in 93, stand up, please. On that team. The next year was 94. We had Ray McQueen, Coach McQueen, who was a well-known, well-respected coach who came to do his last head coaching job at Summit. He actually was returning to Summit because he coached early in his career with Howie and then went to Passaic and had a tremendous run there. And we had a 94 state championship and a 95 a conference championship. If my figuring is correct, there's one more thing to mention and to honor. The Schroeders. With the Schroeders still, please stand up. They hold a national record as well. For 11 straight years, there was a Schroeder at quarterback at Summit. Unbelievable, really. That will never be broken. Never be broken. If I missed somebody or some year, excuse me, but we've got to move on because we're getting close to dinner. But before dinner, there's two special recognitions that I want to make, and from my heart. The first one involves the Hall of Fame. Back in April, I asked the Hall of Fame if they would consider another class, and they were interested, but things were slow, but doing a good job. But I wanted to do something tonight, and so I asked them, would you do this? We're going to have the next class in the spring. Could you just single out maybe some football awards that will be made, and they agreed to it. And unanimously selected who will be honored in the spring. Someone that I think I was a freshman or 8th grade, maybe he's a freshman. He was my hero, Willie Mallory. Willie, please stand, keep standing for a second, please. He grew up in Summit, excelled in football, basketball, and baseball at Summit High School. As a running back, Willie was one of the best ever to wear the maroon and white. In his senior year, Willie was Union County's leading scorer. The same season, he was named to the first team, Group 3 All-State team in the Star Ledger. He was one of the best running backs, not only in New Jersey, but in the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area as well. In that same year, Willie led the Hilltoppers to a Suburban Conference Championship and State Championship. After graduation from Summit, Willie played for the undefeated Villanova University freshman football team in 1955. He moved on to Wichita State University and made all Missouri Valley Conference in 59 and 60. Willie's coach, a lot of you guys weren't born then. Willie's teammate included New Jersey coach Bill Parcells, All-Pro running back Ted Dean, and All-Pro defensive end Roland Lakes of the 49ers. In his senior year, Willie led Wichita State to a Missouri Valley Conference Championship. After graduation, several of the newly formed AFL and 2 NFL teams were interested in Willie, and he was drafted by Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam had other ideas, and Willie served our nation in the United States Army for 2 years with the 3rd Armored Division in Germany. He played football for the division team, and he was their leading running back on the team filled with former top college players. I'm almost done. After fulfilling his military obligation, Willie returned home to New Jersey and began his storied educational and coaching career. His first stop was teaching at the Patterson school system. Next, Willie taught and was the head coach at Newark Central High School for 10 years until he was appointed athletic director at Central. His performance did not go unnoticed, and in 1982, he was named Director of Health and Physical Education, Athletics, and After-School Youth Development for the city of Newark. He served in that capacity until his retirement in 1997. Willie is most deserving of the honor that is bestowed upon him into Summit High School's Athletic Hall of Fame. He was one of the best athletes ever to play at Summit High School and went on to a brilliant career serving our country and giving back in his capacity as coach and director in Newark. He now enjoys his retirement in Hillsborough with his lovely wife Charlotte, who is here, and their 4 grown children. Willie Mallory. Thank you very, very much, Willie. I love you, buddy, and respect you.
I'll call Bill.
The last special person and special recognition before we eat is someone that I've worked closely with for the last 30 years with the Summit Football Alumni Association. He's also been a volunteer coach. He ran the Summit Youth Football program for many years while coaching and helping me with the Alumni Association and any number of other things that if we started this, we wouldn't make dinner. We wouldn't make dinner. And he recently was elected by the New Jersey Football Coaches Association to their Hall of Fame, Rick Carbone. Many times people are not recognized, and I'm glad that the New Jersey Football Coaches Association looked into this and found that Rick deserved the accolades, and he certainly does. Many times, all of you, some way or another, volunteer either in football or other sports or in the Summit community, and many times it goes unnoticed. But this was noticed, and rightly so. With that, we're going to eat. Now we're going to go through 7 coaches who covered 100 years of Summit football, and one gentleman covered the first 25. I was not involved until I knew the man at the end, but never played for him. Coach Cornog, Elwood Cornog. Now, the younger people don't even know what that name is, maybe. The field house at Memorial Field is named after him. He coached football, basketball, and baseball, and almost single-handedly coached those sports from 1922 to 1947. He was a great coach and a great person. On a personal note, a member of the Batchley family way back when really needed a place to stay his senior year. I won't go into detail about it. Coach Cornog says, yes, you come to my house. You stay in my house, and you're my son for this year. And he had sons. He had a great football player, Chester Cornog, and he had a great son who was a war hero in World War II. His son. He had a winning record, as the other 6 coaches did, and there's a reason for it. There's a way of approaching things that I've seen. I've sort of studied coaches over my 50 years or 55 years, and there's traits, organization, etc., teamwork. I think you know what it is. It's like the Supreme Court guy said, I don't know how to define it, but I know it when I see it. That's what I feel about coaching. You see a coach, and they're not all the same, but they have the same result. And they're judged, unfortunately, by the record. And these coaches all had winning records. They're coached by conference or state champions. We didn't have a state championship on the field until 1975. It was done by the newspapers. Suburban Conference, which in my opinion is still the best conference that we've ever been in. Coaches, the tone, Monica, right down the list. And it was fun because there were rivalries. You know, some of these teams, I wouldn't use the word hate, but they strongly disliked each other. Coach Cornog coached those 25 years, and there's only one person in this room that will recognize some of the names, and that's Phelan Sr. But I'm going to mention him anyway. Bull Bryden, Arthur Vivian graduated from Summit High School in World War II. We're just underway. Joined the Marine Corps and did not come home. Did not come home. He was a great athlete. Chester Cornog, I mentioned, he was a great football player, played at Penn, and there are others. Alfred Sonny Dennis. How many people here went to Middlebury?
Yeah, baby!
Nestler, Bradle, Ford, Rhea, myself. My captain in high school was Bill Butler. Bill, stand up. Stand up, Bill. Let me get up. Let's go, baby. Bill, captain my junior year when Howie first arrived, and then he went to Middlebury. I followed him at Middlebury, and he was the captain at Middlebury, and he was my big brother. Thank you, Bill. Other names of people, I know I'm missing somebody, but Billy George. I saw Billy George every single morning on Beechwood Road, and he always had something to say that made me laugh. I felt good. I'm ready for the day. But he was a mentor in many ways, by example and so on. Great athlete at Summit, and had a sports career after that. Don Guida. There are 3 Guidas here. One's missing, and we know why. He's got another commitment. Don Guida was one of the nicest guys, and he was a mentor. He did a lot of things for people that no one knew about, and he didn't do it because he wanted to be known about it. He did it because he loved Summit, and so did his friends. Red Hearn and I'll tell you a story about Red. I'm a junkie for football, Summit football. I was at a JV game in Caldwell, and Red was coaching it late in the season. And he had a good JV team, and he's beating Caldwell pretty good. And he's laying it on a little, as Red had a way of doing. And the guy next, I was near the sideline, the guy next to him said, "Red, they're waving the white flag." The coach over at Caldwell had a flag, a towel. He's going like this. Red said, "I see it. Run the double reverse." There's so many stories about Red. We could be here all night. I know you don't want to be here all night. But with little kids in baseball, he'd be in Memorial Field, calling balls and strikes, and keeping a record of everything that all the kids done. My son, he said, "I'm going to get Red's statistics." And they loved him. They loved him. And he just was a good man and a good role model and a good mentor in his own way. He was a man of few words, but when he spoke, he said something that was important. And Art Cottrell, we have a Cottrell here. When I was growing up, and after I grew up, still growing up, those men were Summit. They were Summit football, and they were Summit. They loved Summit, and the kids in Summit. And there's one other guy, I'm thinking of, he wasn't a coach. Freckles Trengrove. Freckles, I lived in the Memorial Field, and if you stepped out of line, Freckles call you over. You're being, I won't say the word, but you know what it is, and he was right. And next thing you know, you're going straight. So, Coach Cornog developed that whole personality of Summit with those men. They were great men, he was a great man, and there was a great 25 years. Elwood Cornog. Next was Pete Candrack. He came from Union, and he had a boxing background, and you could assume that. He was tough guy. And he taught algebra. I didn't know how to, I think it was algebra. But he had it up at the clock, under the clock, it said, "Time passes, will you?" And that's the attitude he took in football and in life. He lived near the field toward the end, and he was a great guy. He was tough, but he was good. He coached 8 years and had 2 championship teams. In 1954 that we mentioned, state champions, and 1955. And then in 1956, Howie Anderson fan. Now, Jim Dietz came to Summit in 1971, and he gave a short YouTube for us that'll be here, and he'll talk about Howie's years from 70 to 86 when Howie retired. I was a junior when he arrived, and he was, I think, 24 years old. Some of the guys in our team were pushing 20. And in those days, they didn't keep track of your age or anything else. And a couple of the teams would have an older player. And Howie was just a little older than they were, and he had never been a head coach, ever. He was one coach, 1 year at Rutgers, and you could tell from the beginning, the first couple of years, he was feeling his way along. I mean, he'd never been a head coach. And he knew his X's and O's. But there's another factor that for head coaches, dealing with parents. He never did that. And he had to deal with parents, and then the school system had a full load, and so on. And he did it, and you could tell he was going to be good. Took him a couple of years to get it going, and he did. He had, as I said, that was 56. In 58, the conference championship, 59, state championship, 62, state, 63 was the undefeated team that Ryan's, Cromwell, and Mallory played on, and then Topar coached. And then 68, 69, and 70. That's quite a run. Once he understood the mechanics and the qualities that it was to be a head coach, he did it, and you respected him. And people said he didn't have a sense of humor. He had a sense of humor. Trust me. And we played Norway my junior year, and Bill Badgley was the punter. And he got dinged up in the game. We're over in Norway, and he was out of the game. And a rare omission, Howie didn't put a punter in. So we had to call timeout. There was no punter. So Monday at the meeting, the center was Bobby Knowles, who ended up being the AD at Jefferson. So he said to Bobby, what happened when you looked between your legs and there was no punter? He said, I didn't see anything. He said, what else is new? I'm sorry, ladies. You okay? All right. It's not that big, is it? And when I ran the youth football program, I got to know Howie. We became friends. I always looked up to him and Coach Anderson and so on, and we became very, very, very good friends. And he was a good man, very good man. And he cared about Summit, not just football. When he was AD, he cared just as much about all the other programs for the men and the women after Title IX that any AD could possibly do. And he always wanted to get the best coaches and give Summit his best shot. Now, we're going to have a short presentation by Jim Dietz, who, by the way, was a wonderful coach and a wonderful man himself and a mentor to many. Mike, can we run that? Dim the lights. Dim the lights. This is to 86, except for 72. They'll get special attention.
Hello, Hilltopper Football Nation. It's both an honor and a privilege to be able to reflect and review the Howie Anderson years from 71 to 86. I came on board in 71, 23-year-old first-year coach with Howie, Roger Tremblay, Art Cottrell, Red Ahern, and Emil George. The 3 previous years, Summit had won the Suburban Conference Championship, so we were now adopting the motto of score for 4. My first interaction with the football program was preseason, and I was able to work with the running backs, which I was shocked at how good our running back situation was with Dewey Guatney, Mike Jemison, Willie Wilson, and Mike Reed. I still think that has to rank among the top backfields in the history of Summit football. We won that fourth Suburban Conference Championship in '71 with a 7-1-1 record, a tie up at Verona, and then we were upset, the only loss the next 3 years by New Providence on Thanksgiving Day. It also gave me a good sense of how really good the Suburban Conference was, with Ted Monica's teams in Madison and Frank Patone's teams in New Providence and Al Rotella's in Verona and Andy Dubrow at Caldwell. That was a very, very good conference. And we won our fourth Suburban Championship. '72 season, I'm going to let Brad Paxton do that. I personally want to congratulate all of the 72 team members for the 50th anniversary. I can't believe it's 50 years already, but congratulations. The 73 team going now for Blitz for 6. We're going for our 6th straight Suburban Conference Championship. First game, we played a very tough Piscataway team, winning 24-16. Then we proceeded to go through the schedule, and coming up to the Verona game, both Verona and Summit were 7-0. Verona had an outstanding team with 3 Division I running backs. Willie Taylor went to Pitt, Jim Hughes to Rutgers, and fullback Saccone went to Delaware. There was tremendous hype for this game. Coaches were being quoted in the newspaper for scores, and Al Rotella, the Verona head coach, made one mistake. He was quoted in the paper saying that he would take his Willie over our Willie any day. Bad decision. But the game itself was kind of like a heavyweight fight. Neither team could stop the other. The score at the half was 20-14 in Summit's favor. Verona took the second half kickoff and drove all the way down to our 5-yard line before they fumbled. First play, we tossed it to Willie, and he went 95 yards for a touchdown. Instead of Verona going up 21-20, Summit is now ahead 27-14. Verona comes right back, drives right down the field to our 20-yard line, and they decide to throw a pass over the middle. Not a good decision when Willie Wilson is playing safety. Willie picked it off on our 10-yard line and went 90 yards for a touchdown, making the score 33-14, and we still haven't stopped them yet. They stopped themselves. Final score of the game was 39-14. We beat New Providence on Thanksgiving for a 9-0 season, our 6th straight Suburban Conference Championship. We were named Group 3 state champions and selected by the Star Ledger as the #1 team in the state of New Jersey. There were no high school football playoffs yet, so that's the only way those decisions could be made. A couple of things that I found out with the first 3 years of coaching that are part of the Summit culture for Howie Anderson. First off was the infamous apron. The yellow cushion, body full, padded thing that we had a sophomore generally put that on every Tuesday at the end of practice when we did a few of our post-practice blocking drills, and then the sophomore got to autograph it at the end of the day. It was kind of a pride thing with the kids. And it was something that was funny to see every Tuesday. A sophomore walks up onto the practice field. He sees the yellow apron there. Says, oh boy, I hope it's not my turn. He also, how he did, which built the culture of Summit, on the helmets, if you were on the starting first team, you got a decal of a big vulture. If you were on the starting defense, you got a decal of a mongrel. If you were starting on both legs, you got 2 decals. And the kids took a huge amount of pride in that. So we won the championship in 73 also, so 74, we now have 6 straight. So the 74 model was 7 would be heaven. We weren't ready to go there yet. That's not something we wanted to do. So we finished the 74 season 5-4. It ironically turned out to be the first year that the state of New Jersey instituted on-field playoffs. You had to have a 6-2 record to get in, and they were only selecting 4 teams, which made it a real challenge to get into the playoffs in the first place. And we did not qualify in 74. 1975 season, in addition to the tough Suburban Conference schedule, we added Westfield to our schedule. Now, Westfield in the early 70s, while we were going through our great season, they were undefeated each of those years. They have a 48-game win streak going. And I think that Howie Anderson, in trying to get the best schedule that he could for Summit, trying to get us more PowerPoints, so we scheduled Westfield in addition to the Suburban Conference schedule. We lost that first game to Westfield 7-0 in 75. We did qualify for the playoffs with a 6-2 record, and we lost in the first round to Morris Hills 28-20. Well, that set the stage for the 76 season. Now we've gotten our feet wet. We start the 76 season tying Westfield 6-6. Westfield went on that year to win the Group 4 state championship. We finished the first 8 games 7-0-1. Only thing there was a tie with Westfield. We went to the playoffs. We played East Orange the first game, which we won 20-0. Then we went to West Essex for the state championship game, and we won that one 40-0. Completely dominated that game. A couple of things about that game. The field was completely frozen. We played the entire game in sneakers, which is unheard of, playing high school football in sneakers, but the ground was that cold. It was also the first game ever televised by TV3. Cable had just been installed in the northern New Jersey areas, and Bob Lay, the longtime ESPN anchor up in Connecticut, was the announcer of the first ever TV3 game. Well, we dominated it behind Mike Horn, Kevin Phelan, Bill Watney, Timmy Odell, and Ronnie Banks. And the team recorded 8 shutouts that season. Has to rank among the best defensive teams Summit has ever had. Only 3 teams all season scored a point on us: Westfield, Madison, and New Providence. 77, 78, and 79, we had nice football teams. Madison dominated the scene back then. As a matter of fact, they won 38 straight games at Madison. We did not qualify for the playoffs, even though we had a 6-2 record in 78, which included another win over Westfield 6-2 on a Danny Guida punt return. The 1980 season was special, for sure. We finished the season 10-1, our only loss to Caldwell 7-6. In the process, we beat Westfield 20-13, who won the Group 4 state championship. We also broke Madison's 38-game win streak. Madison had been dominant in the latter part of the 70s. So we qualified for the state championship, and we beat Morris Hills in the opening round 21-12, which then took us to the first time ever Summit High School football going up to the Meadowlands and playing in Giant Stadium. We faced a very, very strong Rahway team, 2-time state champion coming in, and it was a heck of a game. They had an opening play run where the guy was going for a touchdown and fumbled, and we recovered it, and then proceeded to go 94 yards for a touchdown. The score was 7-7 at the half. We would try to kick the field goal in the third quarter, but it was wide. Drove down to kick another field goal in the fourth quarter with the score tied 7-7. And one of the funnier things I've ever seen in football was we're lined up for a field goal, and Mike Serino, the holder, turns to Robbie Bradle, the kicker, and says, "Don't blow this one." Anyway, Bradle kicked it through. We won the game 10-7, and that made us state champions. We also finished that season as the number 2 ranked team in the state of New Jersey. A tremendous accomplishment. One season was our last season in the Suburban Conference. Unfortunately, scheduling issues became a problem with certain schools in the state, and everybody was scrambling to reform some conferences. We ended up going into the Northern Hills Conference, where we would be playing the likes of Lakeland, West Milford, Montville, Wayne Valley, all, pretty significant trips. We did not make the championships in 81. In 82, we finished 8-2, and we beat Westfield again for the third time. We lost to West Morris in the first round of the playoffs that year, 14-9. Our only other loss was 7-0 to Caldwell. The 83 season, we finished 5-4, but we had 3 games. We lost by 2, by 1, and by 1. The significant thing in the 83 season was this: Leroy Horn, certainly one of the finest running backs in Summit's history, very noteworthy achievement. In the playoffs, 10-7, after having lost to them earlier in season 21-14. We beat Union 7-0 with the Lou Rotino coached team, and Union went on to win the Group 4 state championships. That's 3 times we've beaten the Group 4 state champion. Now this leads us to the final game of Howie's coaching, which was Randolph. Randolph had an outstanding team, quarterback by the name of Mike Rowe, whose father was on the staff of the New York Giants. And Mike today, I think, is on one of the staffs in the NFL. The game, again, was very, very cold up there. Some of the guys played in sneakers because between the hash marks, it was absolutely frozen. We lost the game 12-7, unfortunately, and the Friday before the game, Howie came up to me in school and said, "Jim, tomorrow's going to be it for me," which was a real shock to me. And one of the things I said to him, I said, "Are you going to tell the kids?" He said, "No, I'm not going to tell the kids." He said, "I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about the kids," which just shows you the unselfishness of Howie Anderson. Anyway, we were driving for a winning touchdown at the end of the game, and we fumbled the ball, unfortunately. So we lost that game 12-7. As I reflect back on coaching the 16 years with Howie, first thing that comes to my mind is a legend in New Jersey high school football coaching, an architect of this program. He built Summit football, the foundation for Summit football. And what we've done over the years is simply added the stories on to an outstanding program, one of the finest in New Jersey. Howie was an outstanding coach, outstanding role model, outstanding mentor for other coaches and players that played for him. Super organized. I've never seen anybody disorganized. His pregame speeches, guys who played for him remember, 4 handwritten pages, and he would go through every one of them in the locker room before each game. He had a notebook on every team, what they did previous years against us that they might do again. He had a notebook for each season, pre-game, post-game, write-ups on what went well, what did go well, and just super organized. One other thing which I don't know that anybody is aware of, Howie was very superstitious. If we lost to Madison one year, the next time we went to Madison, he wouldn't let the bus driver go the same way. We had to take a different route. That's how superstitious Howie was. And I don't know how many people actually know that. It was a pleasure to coach with him, an honor to coach with him. And those of you who have played for him, you were fortunate to have played for one of the best coaches in the history of New Jersey high school football. Enjoy the rest of the program and go to the...
Before we go on to the next coach, can Rob Bradle and Mike Serino stand up?
I'm here. I am standing up. Stand up! Over here.
I want to know, was that true?
That is fucking true.
Whoa! That's a flag.
The language was a little bit stronger.
He just made that.
I told him, Rob, whatever you do, don't F this up.
You're supposed to help the kicker, not put him in.
Hey, you gave him real confidence, didn't you?
One thing about Howie too, and I think maybe everybody that's close to it will agree, he always wanted the best. As AD, he wanted the best coaches for the girls and the boys and so on. He did that, and along those lines, when he did retire, and I don't think I have anything else that that equals it, but I do a piece of trivia. Who was the first person, or the only person, to be at Howie's first practice and last practice? Me. I was a junior when he came, and he and I, as I said, I am a senior. Anyway, he wanted the best, and he got the best in Jim Benedict, our next coach. Jim, take over.
Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be here. It's thank the committee that organized this great thing, because it must have been a lot of hard work. And I feel fortunate to have met so many former Hilltoppers and learned about your traditions and your excellence. We had a dinner back in, I don't know when that was, but Nick Curiel and a couple of guys were saying, yeah, we're going to have a 100th anniversary banquet, and we want you to be here, Coach. I live in Georgia, so it's fine. I drive up, and it's good. And then I get a phone call from Gil, and he says, look, you're going to talk about 7 years of Summit football. You got 10 minutes. So I'm like, all right. So I work on my speech, I'm trimming it down and everything, and I got this stuff typed up. And I put the stopwatch on, I do my whole speech, 40 minutes. So I start trimming guys out. So a lot of you guys are on the floor in my desk, in my office, because I'm trying to cut it down, you know. And then Gil gets up, and I time him. He talks 45 minutes in his first part of his program. Now I know I only got 10 minutes. The second part, he talks for half an hour. So now, you know, I'm like, Gil,
I'm a lawyer.
give these kids. Yeah, so anyway, I tried to trim it down. I don't know if I'm going to be, it's not going to be 10 minutes. It's going to be a little bit longer than that, but it should be fine. On my drive up here from Georgia, I like to drive. It takes me 2 days, and I get a chance to think about things and so forth. I was thinking about what makes all of you men, some of you from the 1950s and the 60s and so on, some of you have family obligations this evening. What makes you come to this event, to this 130th celebration? And I come up with 4 things. The first one, you grew up in a wonderful town. I lived in Berkeley Heights. We wished we lived in Summit, right? So you grew up in a wonderful town, you went to a great high school, and you chose to play a game that's been characterized as the greatest team sport of all time. A game that takes boys and turns them into brave men, warriors. Number 1. Number 2, your teammates. I think Howie Anderson used to say this, my college coach used to say it. You know, you'll never remember who you went to school in your English class who sat on the right or the left of you. You'll never forget the teammates that played alongside. So you're here to celebrate each other. Third one, you possess a Hilltopper DNA. I discovered it as I started coaching here. It was passed on to you from many years of Hilltopper excellence. As is our custom, you practiced and played with passion and perseverance. And as stewards of the Hilltopper program and Hilltopper tradition, you nurtured that excellence and you handed it to the next generation in as good or better shape than it was handed to you. And fourth, to me, is the magic of Tatlock. I played or coached in my career in probably like 12 really big stadiums, places like Notre Dame and the University of Texas at Austin, and the Orange Bowl. We didn't make the bowl game, but we played Miami in the Orange Bowl. And I've driven by those stadiums in later years and never felt the need to go and visit them. But I can't come to New Jersey without visiting Tatlock Field. I walk down onto the field and, well, let me go this way. In Georgia, we have the University of Georgia. Their stadium is called Sanford Stadium. You've probably heard this, but their field, they call it between the hedges, because there's hedges all around the field. Phil Krug nicknamed our Tatlock Field Between the Pines. And there's something about those pine trees. You walk down there, they're not there anymore, but they still have trees, you know. And there's something about that, to me, that seems to lock in the spirit of all the people that play there, and all the great memories, and all the great players, and all the great teams. And I think that they circle, you know, I'm getting a little colorful here, but I think they circle from the Pines to the press box and back to the Pines again, and they support the current iteration of the Hilltoppers, and I think it's a wonderful thing. I want to just step away from football just for a second and tell you about a Summit athlete that I know. Her name is Allison Classic. She was in some of my classes, and she was, we had a course that we started there called Bigger, Faster, Stronger, and it was just athletes that are in season, and they would work on speed, strength, agility, flexibility, and running form. Allison was in one of those classes. She was the most fun person to be around. She was so positive. Hey, Mr. Bennett, how you doing? Or coach, I think they all call him. By the way, the football coach at Summit was always called Coach. All the other coaches were Coach Dietz, Coach this, Coach that. It was because of Howard. You know, so I was so excited to be Coach. Anyway, she'd say, hi, Coach. And she was a very positive, very upbeat person. I became friends with her on Facebook. She lives down the Jersey Shore, and very active. Her and her 3 children, they surf, they swim, they kayak, they fish, they sail, and it's really neat to see them. About a year, maybe longer ago, I saw a picture of Allison in a hospital bed. And right next to that was a picture of her finishing a race, a road race down the shore area. And I was, oh my God, you know, so I wrote a letter to her and I asked her, is she okay? What happened? Tell me about your recovery. And she wrote this back to me. I've got to read it to you. And if I don't cry, it'll be a miracle. This is what Allison wrote. She said, when I got home after my surgery, something pulled me to Tatlock Field. And there, it was easy to remember what all the inspiring coaches at Summit High School instilled in us. Work hard, stay positive and confident, and then work harder. I knew, even holding on to the fence, as I walked around the field, I was going to gain back everything that I had lost. Tatlock put a spring in my step and made me remember that I was a Hilltopper, and I was going to make a comeback. I am so grateful to all of my coaches for giving me the tools I needed to get through those tough times. You don't remember all of the lessons you learned in the class, but you never forget the lessons you learned on the playing field. They are for life. I hope you are well, Allison. She's healthy, she's back, she's running, she's doing all that stuff. She had brain surgery to remove a tumor, and then 3 months later, she's running. So I think that's kind of what Tatlock says to us all. You know, we have those great memories of Tatlock. Good teams have good fundamentals. Bad teams have bad fundamentals. And great teams have great fundamentals. This is standard in any sport that you play. Our coaching staff made a commitment to teach great fundamentals. It doesn't mean we were simple or just did things that were uncomplicated, but we made a commitment because we knew that's the way, that's the foundation of being a good player. We had Jimmy Dietz, who you just saw there. He's a Hall of Famer. We had Phil Krug. Jimmy coached our running backs and linebackers. Phil Krug coached our offensive and defensive line. He could rip you up one side and down the other, and go in the locker room and be joking with you and make you have a great time. He was wonderful. Brad Paxson. Brad's here as a former great quarterback. He's here as the father of 2 outstanding Hilltoppers. and he's here as a coach. He coached our wide receivers and our outside linebackers. Our freshman coaches were John Cratch and Walter Shelcross. I got Walter to come here because he was a Hall of Fame wrestling coach at Union High School, and he was the athletic director. And he always said to me, Jimmy, when I retire, I'm gonna come with you and I'm gonna coach. The day he retired, I gave him a call, and he came in, and he was a fundamental guy, and those teams were undefeated for 2 years that he coached there. Leroy Horn, he coaches every year with every coach, and we know him. We know him as a great running back and baseball player at both here and Montclair State, and he would do anything for Summit football. But he was, to me, he was our motivator. You know, I'd give this dull talk in the locker room about what we're going to do, game plan, all that stuff, and then the team would go down the field, and they'd get in the corner of the end zone, and Leroy would start talking to him, and I would just walk over there. I don't know what he said to him, but they came out of there foaming at the mouth. So he was an important part. Adam Fern was our trainer. Most of you remember Adam Fern. He was a former athlete at Clemson. He was knowledgeable, he was caring, and he was a good friend. Gil Oren. Gil was our in charge. Gil is, to me, is like Mr. Summit football. And he told you about how much he was Mr. Summit football. Anyway, Gil organized our scouting, and back then we didn't trade films like you guys get a chance to do. We just had to go out and scout. So he got these guys, Phil Shyposh who's here today, and Rick Carbone worked with us, and then there was like 5 other guys. I didn't even know their names. I just call them UFOs. They would come in, dump the scouting report off, and give it to Gil, and then he would organize it for Sunday morning meetings at 9 o'clock, and he put us ahead of everybody. Okay, we played in the Watchung Conference, which at the time was recognized as the best conference in the state. Now I'm not talking about the most competitive, like suburban league or anything like that, but this is the best conference. And we love the challenge. I never heard a Summit parent or a Summit player say, oh, it's not fair. The Watchung Conference was all Group 4s and Group 3s, and we were a Group 2. And we had, at time, I remember towards the end of my time at Summit, we had 560 students. We're playing Elizabeth, who had 5 times more students. They had over 3,000 students. And as I said, nobody complained. The kids were like, hey, that's who we play. We're going to be fine. Union, Elizabeth, Linden, and Westfield were all Group 4s, and at any one time, you might find all of them in the top 10 in the state of New Jersey. Scotch Plains, Rawway, and Shabazz were always contenders for the Group 3 playoffs, and Irvington and Kearney were as tough as they get. I don't know if you guys remember, but in 1987, my first year there, I scheduled Bergen Catholic for our game scrimmage. And they had just won the state championship. They were on their way to being, one of the great teams in the nation. They killed us. I mean, they just ran us all over. That was 87. 88, we played them again, and we beat them in the state playoffs. It was like 33. We beat them in the game scrimmage. Dorian Jackson ran a touchdown back at the end, and we ended up winning. So we knew that we had made a lot of progress. In 1987, my first year, we had a talented group of seniors, but not very many of them. And then we had some really good younger kids. We started out beating Rawway, and then we lost 4 in a row. And it was Westfield, Scotch Plains, Elizabeth, and Linden. And I remember saying to the coaching staff, we just came through the valley of the shadow of death. And we took a beating. But then we beat Irvington and Cranford. And the Cranford game we got to talk about just a little bit because they were going for a state playoff. We're sitting there with like 1-4 or something, and so we're doing our warm-ups and we're running across the field back and forth away, just to warm up. And Cranford decides they're going to circle the field with their warm-ups, and so we have to stop because we're running into them. And I looked down at their coaches, and it was something very unusual to do that. I looked down at their coaches and they're standing there like this, and I just got so angry, because it just kind of broke the protocol. And So I was talking to Flavio last night. He said, Coach, you bring him inside. You said, we're going to run 4 plays. And that's all we're going to run. We're going to kick their effing asses, you know. And that's what we did. Sweep right, sweep left, sweep right, sweep once while we ran off tackle. We beat them 53-8. And it was one of those things where, you know, the fundamentals, you know, I've been in the practice before to that game. We ran the sweep 100 times. And then that's all we did, is run that against them. And we just, you know, it was great to see. We beat Kearney, and then we lost to New Providence, the state champs. We lost to them 0-14. And we played well. I think they might have been undefeated that season. We played well. It was 7-0 going into the 4th quarter. They scored, and we lost. So we had to live with it. The next year, our tri-captains were Darryl Fusco, Flavio Ascatelli, and our MVP, Paul Fleming. Our record was 8-3, and we were state champs. We started out with wins against Galway, Westfield, Scotts Plains, and we lost to Elizabeth, 25-3. And then we went on to beat Irvington and lost to Cranford. And Cranford lost 7-0. It was my fault. We just didn't, I don't think I prepared the team very well. And they had a good defense, and I didn't adjust to it. And so we lost that game, and then we went on to win 2 more and lose to New Providence again. We laid an egg against New Providence. It was 0-24, and it was pretty sad. And we get to the state playoffs, and we gotta almost rally the team. It was almost like losing to New Providence. What's the sense in playing in the States? You know, and I'm like, wait a minute, no one's going to remember who, you know, you losing to New Providence, but they'll remember you winning the state playoff. So we did. We won in overtime. We won 12-6, and Mark Smith, who was a great athlete, and should be remembered for much more than this, but made the great tackle down on the 1-inch line to stop them in overtime. And you know, and it was really something. It was very exciting to win that game, to win the state championship in our 2nd year. So then we go to the 3rd year, and we were loaded. I mean, we had some good players. We had great running backs. We had outstanding linemen, and we ended up beating Linden. I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong page here. 6. Okay, we ended. Fell. How about that? Supposed to be organized. Howie would never drop it. Thank you. So, 89. We lose to Elizabeth in the first game. They were state champs, #1 team in the state, lost in 14-7. Then we ran the table, and we got all the way to the state first round of the state playoffs, and we played Roselle, and we lost to them 0-6. We had a few issues in that game. A couple kids made some bad decisions the week before, and we lost 5 players to breaking training rules. It wasn't that we couldn't replace them. I thought we could. We had some good substitutes, but we didn't find out that we were losing them until Thursday. So we didn't have enough time to prepare the guys that were subbing. We didn't play well. We lost. They went on to play Madison. What would have been the great thing, Summit playing Madison, and we would have won easy because Roselle won easy. So anyway, the story has to be told. We had a game against Kearney left. It was on Thanksgiving. On Wednesday, before Thanksgiving, the last day of school, you know, and it starts snowing. And it snows and it snows and it snows. It snows all through Thanksgiving. We get to the field on Friday, and the field's covered in snow. And there's like 2 guys out there from the recreation department with these little shovels, and they're trying to just shovel the outline of the field. And I go down there. I was a pain in the neck to those guys all the time anyway. I go down there and go, look, we gotta have the lines, we gotta have the hash marks, you know, because we can't play a game if we don't have the field lined properly. So as I'm saying that, they're going, you know, and they're not gonna do it. So I get all the team together. I go, guys, come here, go home and get shovels. We're gonna shovel this field, you know. So they bring their shovels back in. The original plan was, let's just shovel the lines and the hash marks like I wanted. We get about, I don't know, a quarter of the way through, and one of the players goes, Coach, we can shovel this whole goddamn field. So I go, let's do it. So we worked all morning, and we piled the snow up in the end zone. It was at least higher than my height. And which I was about 3 inches taller in those days. It was a lot higher than my height, and we're coming off the field. We're not going to practice. We're just going to go home, get ready to play on Saturday. And I'm going, man, when I was in good shape, man, my butt hurts, my legs hurt, my elbows hurt. And I'm thinking, oh, man, we're going to lose this game because these guys are going to be fatigued. Kearney had a good team. They had the best player in the state named Jeff Kerwin, who went to Penn State. We beat him 49-0. We shoveled the field, and then we beat him. And it was just, to me, that's like an essence of what a Hilltopper will do, you know? We'll shovel the field, we'll play in the driveway, we'll play wherever we have to. So that was, to me, it was a great ending to a little bit of a disappointment at the very end of the season with an outstanding team.
Yes, you
In 90, our tri-captains were Mark Sheridan, Jason Evers, and our MVP, Chris Fleming. Our record was 5-4. But the game we have to talk about is we went into the game with Union, which was the 6th game of the season, and our record was 2-3. Union was the #1 team in the state, and they were ranked 8th in the nation. We beat them 13-12. And there's some things I always believe in. Number one, we used to say, defensive coaches build player confidence by showing them what to key and where to go. Offensive coaches destroy defender confidence by keeping them from having keys. I coached at Union for a lot of years. We also went down to the University of Delaware to ask how you would attack that 4-4 defense. Between those two things, we had some real key breakers, and we moved the ball. First play of the game, we false pulled the guard. We blocked the center back. The other guard steps around to block the linebacker. And Brian Sheridan, the All-American, the guy that played at Rutgers for all those years, and their tackle are over there. And Fleming goes like that. He goes about 50 yards before he gets caught. We did some other pretty neat things, and we ended up getting down on the goal line late in the game. And Jimmy Dietz we used to get in an I formation on the goal line, and we would run off tackle or out. We'd go the other way, we'd run off tackle. And Jimmy Dietz is screaming at me, they're not covering the A gaps. There's nobody there. Run the quarterback sneak. And I'm going, Jimmy, I know these guys. They're going to be in the A gaps. First down, they're not in the A gaps. Second down, they're not in the A gaps. Third down, they're not in the A gaps. He's screaming at me, call a timeout. So I call a timeout. I go out on the field, and I said, I want to run the quarterback sneak. But if they're in those A gaps, we got to run off tackle, and we need 1 yard. So I said, but I don't know how to call it. We used to call plays, we track this way, we call it a check with me system, which most schools have. I said, but I don't know how to call the quarterback sneak because we called it quarterback sneak. That would be, even the Union kids could understand that. We yell quarterback sneak. So Carter Westfall, who is one of the great linemen in some history, and also one of the great linemen in the history of Princeton, he was voted one of the top 50 players in Princeton's history. And he's much smarter than me or most of our coaching staff. He goes, Coach, just call his number. So what was Cherry's number? Was it 12 or 8? 10? So I go, okay. So if the gate gaps are open, just call 10. If they're not, call 42 or 48, whatever power play we're going to run. So comes up on the ball, 10, sink it in the end zone, and we win the game. So it was a pretty neat win. I'll tell you, Jerry Eisenberg, remember Jerry Eisenberg used to write for the Star Ledger, and he was like a big Muhammad Ali guy, So Jerry Eisenberg called that the greatest upset in the history of New Jersey high school football. It might still be today. That was our 90 team. In 91, our co-captains were Jose Ministral, Mike Paxton, and our MVP, Carter Westfall. We were 5-5. And we opened up with beating Linden, then we beat Scotch Plains, and then we lost to Plainfield, Shabazz, and Cranford, and we beat Kearney, and then we went to Rawway and beat them, and then we played Governor Livingston, and we beat them. And now we're playing Irvington on Thanksgiving Day, Irvington, our traditional Thanksgiving rivalry. We're playing Irvington on Thanksgiving Day, and we're playing over there, it's a muddy field, and we end up losing. We end up getting into the playoffs, but we lose to Irvington. And we had some fisticuffs after the game and all that kind of stuff, so it was not a great experience. My Thanksgiving dinner was ruined, upset about the kids and all that stuff. And then we go to Caldwell, the playoff game, and we lose 49-0 to Caldwell. And so I was thinking, we're a wing T team, Caldwell is a wing T team, Union is a wing T team, Linden is a wing T team, Scotch Plains is a wing T team, and then we get in the playoffs, we play a wing T team. So we're playing 5 of those guys in a row. So one of the things I heard way back in 1973, the first clinic that I ever went to was Eric Arsegian talking. And he was talking about the offense that they ran. And he said, we went back in time and we chose an offense that was different, unique. And by going back in time, we ended up going forward. And it always stuck with me, you know. So we decided we got to do something different because these guys just, you know, you could play 4 teams in a row, and then we played them, and they've been practicing against the same offense for is that the signal here? Yeah. So anyway, we that was our 100th anniversary of football, wasn't it? That year? So we go to this offense that is archaic, and no one ever saw it before. And we thought maybe we were going to have one of the weaker teams that we might have as far as having so many young guys. And that team ended up 8-3, and they went to the state finals, and we lost to Dover. But one of the things I got to tell you, and this is an earmark of Summit football, and probably throughout all of the coaches, John Sonati was the coach at Jefferson. They had Mike Marciano, who was the best running back in the state at the time. They had a guy named Mike Leach who played in the NFL for 15 years. And so John Sonati was talking about the game against Summit, and he says, I've watched every one of their games. I've never seen them make a mistake. I've never seen them get a penalty. He said, these guys are good. Well, we were supposed to kill us. Anyway, we beat them 27-20. That was the good news. The bad news, we had to go to Dover and play Dover, who was loaded. And we lost to Dover 0-22. It might have been the coldest day in the history of football. Ted Monaco was at the game. I knew Ted, and a couple months later he said, I was at your game. Ted was retired. I said, Jimmy, I was at your game, and I had a knee replacement. My knees froze. I couldn't get down the stands. People had to carry me down the stands. That's how cold it was. We would punt and the ball would go down. So we lost, and they were clearly better than us, and that's just the way it was. But we introduced this single wing offense, which became kind of a cult in our town. When we first ran it, I think people were saying, hey, you guys don't do anything. But in '93, which was our final year together, our captains were Ian Paxson and Bobby Bickle. You couldn't find a better 2 captains. Tough guys, loyal guys, dedicated guys. And, we were 11-0. We won the state championship, and we were ranked number 10 in the state. One of the things we did that I learned we might do this if we ran this offense. The coach at Lawrenceville, Ken Cuffle, was a friend of mine. He said, there's a good chance you'll score on the first possession of every game. And we did. For 11 straight games, we scored on the first possession of every game. So you're already down to a 7-0 before you really get into the game. Coaches would come over after the game and they would say, man, we can't create your offense in practice because we can't snap it the way you do, and we don't even, we don't know where you're going, and you have key breakers and all those things. So we had 2 tough games that year. I won't go through all the games, but we had 2 tough games. The first one was against Plainfield. Got down to was it the last play, Bobby? Got down to the last play of the game, and Jamie threw a pass, and it kind of bounced off a couple of Plainfield defenders, almost like what I saw today with you guys. And Bobby caught the thing, on his shoe tops. And he fell into the end zone, or was in the end zone already, and we won that game. And then we ran the table, and I'm going to go through it. We ran the table. Scotch Plains, 28-0. Elizabeth, or East Side, 62-0. Shabazz, 27-7. Cranford, 55-0. Westfield, 35-12. Rawway, 27-0. Kearney, 49-0. Hackettstown, first round of playoffs, 49-17. Irvington, who we had to fight with the game Thanksgiving before, and we're playing I was a little angry because I wanted to move the game from Thanksgiving Day, because we just played on Saturday, to the following Saturday, and we couldn't get it done. Irvington wanted to do it. Our administration was lukewarm on the thing. They tried, but we couldn't get it done. So we had to play on Thursday. So now those guys are ready for a fight. They're like screaming in our locker room, yelling at us before the game. And I'm going, ooh, this is going to be tough, you know. And we get out on the field, and Jamie Allen throws a touchdown pass to Kevin Simpson on the third play of the game. And the score ended up, the score ended up, where am I? The score ended up 43-14. It was just great. And I kind of made a, tell you a little secret, because I was angry at Irvington. I kind of made a little plan that if we win this game, and the sports writer's going to come and talk to them, I'm going to say how unfair it is. That we have to play on a Thursday. We should be playing on a Saturday. And we would have given them that courtesy. But if we lose, I can't say that. Then it would just be sour grapes, you know. So we win. And I'm standing there, and not one reporter comes to talk to me. So I think they saved my butt, because you know, I shouldn't be complaining about that. And then we go to Mendham, and we jump out 14-0 because we score in the first play of every drive. Then we score again, and now they punt, and they do one of the shortest, most spastic looking kicks I've ever seen. The ball hits the ground, and if a couple of some former athletes, like if John Mallory was there, he'd have caught that, he'd have just picked that up and run for a touchdown. Jamie Allen would have done the same thing. But the guy that was playing up a little farther didn't quite have as much confidence. The ball bounced up, and he's hearing me say, in the back of his mind, get away from me, get away, you know, because that's what I'm doing all year. So he doesn't do it. The ball hits him in the leg. Mendham gets the ball back, goes down and scores. Then they come out, they're fired up, they go down, they get ahead of us. And so we get down to the last couple plays of the game, and Jamie is our thrower, and he's good, but he's also our best receiver. And during the summer, we used to work with him as a receiver. So I go out there and I say, all right, Ian, we're going to throw the ball to you. No, we're not going to do it. You know, Jamie, you go out wide receiver. Ian, you line up here. Bring in the lefty. You know, so Schroeder over there comes in, sophomore, totally cold, makes a professional move into the left a little bit to avoid the rush, throws the ball, and Jamie, as only Jamie could do, we don't even teach him, he runs a stutter go. He goes down on the field and slows down a little bit, and the Mendham kid slows down. Jamie goes right by and catches the ball. Now, I was big on discipline, and I didn't want our guys drawing attention to themselves, like taking your helmet off like Miami used to do and all that stuff. Jamie comes over and he takes his helmet off, and I'm like, yes, do it, Jamie, yes! So anyway, we won that game, and it was great. So I'm going to get out of here, but I want to finish up with something that I used to read to the team. I don't know if I read this to every team that I coached here, but I have an office in Georgia where I live, and I have a picture, a really nice painting of 3 wolves. And there's 2 larger wolves and a smaller wolf. And the painting is entitled The Lesson. And I used to read this to the players. It's the beginning of a poem by Rudyard Kipling, and it's called The Law of the Jungle. So let me finish with this. Now this is the law of the jungle, as old and as true as the sky. And the wolf that shall keep it may prosper, but the wolf that shall break it must die. As the creeper that girdles the tree trunk, the law runneth forward and back. For the strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack. Like the wolf, you have a DNA coursing through your blood, hilltopper DNA. And just as the wolf's strength makes the pack strong, your individual strength made your team strong. More importantly, the pack, your teammate, and all the hilltopper brothers that built our proud tradition gave you the strength and courage to face adversity and defeat. I respect you, I'm proud of you, and I love you. Go Hilltopper.
up here in town.
Recovered Raider fans years at Summit. We're now going to hear from Coach John Liberato. Where we go with that? Yeah, everybody's leaving. That's great.
We're just getting a drink.
Here's our story. Our story is we're in the right place at the right time, but most importantly with the right people. Summit is awesome. I came to Summit with a lot of trust. Summit has a lot of tradition. Prior to my arrival, the record was 1-19. So what did we have to do? We made a poster. Bill Finnegan, talked to him, made the poster. On the poster, we said, embracing the past to enrich the future. And we did kind of like the 130 poster, what we have. We got a whole bunch of pictures from years past, and we put it on there. We painted the town with it, and that's how we started. The timing was right. Our first 3 games, we were 0-3. And I looked at Coach Costos and I said, wow, what are we doing here? And he calmed me down. He said, listen, we're going to be all right. We got some good things going on. Our 4th game, we wound up winning. We beat Parsippany. And that whole first year, you know, it was a learning experience, trying to change the culture, get it back to what Hilltop of football really was. All the things that you heard about up to this point. And we were fortunate. The last game of that year was the consolation game. We played Fort Lee, and we won 40-0. Well, you would have thought we won the state championship because the fans were going nuts. The people made a tunnel. We were going through it, and that was our jump start for the next couple of years. We were fortunate. We won 4 straight conference championships. We won 2 state championships. We got Matt Reed out there. Got Paul Coviel over there, got Nick Liberato over there. But the thing that makes it great is the people. That's what Summit has. No matter what job you have, no matter where you're working, it's the people. The job doesn't make the people make the job. And that's what we have here at Summit. My coaching staff, we started 16 years ago. Most of us are still here. I got Mike Judge, he's still here. Rick Carbone, he's still here, but he was always here. Jimmy Geachin. We got Kevin Costos, who's now our head coach. Let's see what we got. I said Mike Judge, Leroy Horn, Drew Nichols. You know, we got everybody still here. We had people like Phil Shiposh. He was coming, he would help us out. Hank would always help us out. And then you have the Godfather of Football, Gil. The Godfather of Summit football. I mean, the man is amazing. He's amazing and extremely supportive. And again, like I said, I came to Summit with a lot of trust because I actually lived in Summit, next to Jack. Lived next to Robbie. My parents owned the fish market in Summit. We moved away, went to New Providence, but I came back, and it felt like home. My wife, Virginia, this was home for us coming back here. So we love being part of the 130. It's outstanding. And having you know, Coach Fusco, he's going through it now. He's coaching his son at Mountain Lakes. I had the opportunity to coach both of my boys, and they were fortunate enough to win a state championship. And it was probably harder for them than it was for me, but it was something that Summit allowed our family to have. And that's awesome. That's priceless. You never take it away. So, Coach, good luck. I hope you get the state championship this year. Anthony Rhea, another Hilltopper. He's at MKA coaching. I mean, Summit produces a lot of good football people, guys. A lot of good football people. Let me close with this, because I'm going to be short. The people in Summit are awesome. The support that not only we have for football, but for our family is unbelievable. It's second to none, because I was at 5 other places. second to none. And the reason why Summit's great is because of all you out here. Because of all you. So I thank you, my family thanks you, Summit Football thanks you, and what's great, I tell you, it's about the people, and boy, do we have a great head coach. Our head coach, Kevin Costabos, come on up, coach. If it wasn't for Rick Carbone, when we first got here back in 2007, that weight room would have never happened. And our players would have never had the strength, and more importantly, the confidence to play Hilltopper football. So Rick, great job, I'm proud of you too.
Before I speak, I think there's something we definitely have to do. You know, we definitely have to honor, I think, one person who is pivotal in putting this all together. And I think without that person, you know, this wouldn't have taken place. So if we could take 30 seconds, just to recognize, Gil, come here, Rory. You know, when we started talking about this, one of the things that we said was, well, you know, how are we going to put this all together? And we noticed that we knew it was going to be during the season. There's going to be a million other things going on between the program, the Alumni Association, all the stuff that goes through a normal fall. And Gil was kind of like, I can handle it. You know, I'll take care of it. And you know, I looked at Gil and I said, well, how are you going to do that? He's like, I just find ways to get things done. Don't worry, I'll charge somebody. I said, fine. But what I love about Gil, and what I think is so important is, you know, this was something that was incredibly important to him. Okay, to put together, to get all of us in a room, and to all of us to honor kind of what has gone on, okay, over the last 130 years. So, hey, Gil, I just want to thank you for doing this. I think it was a great opportunity for everybody here. I think everybody appreciates what you've done, and you are the godfathers on the football.
Hey, Gil, do your best, win, and improve. Those were your words.
Was that George? You did, George.
For those who don't know, my name is Kevin Cosmos, and I'm the current head football coach. You know, I have a little different take than maybe the predecessors. I feel very blessed because I have the greatest football job in the world. And I'm very thankful, okay, to be in a position like this. And, you know, I'd love to stay here for the next 50 years. And the reason for that, okay, is not just the kids, okay, not just the administration, not just the support from the parents, okay, but the biggest thing is the tradition. And that's something that that no fundraiser can buy, you know, that really no practice can instill. When I took the job over in 2013, as John alluded to, we came in 2007, and there was some fixing that needed to be done. And we came in and we really built a foundation, okay, on the words of pride and discipline. And that was something that we held very sacred, okay? It was something that the kids always knew that we could kind of fall back on. And when I was named the head coach in 2013, I knew it was something that we had to build on, but we kind of had to kind of evolve into the next piece. And we knew we needed to add on to it. And the one thing that I added on to it was the word tradition. And because, you know, one of the essence of football has always been and will always be, you really don't know where you're going until you know where you've been. And as the years have kind of gone by, I think a lot of guys don't realize, okay, the tradition that goes along with some football. You know, in a day and age, okay, where it's a lot of instant gratification, a day and age where everybody wants things now, you know, where the, you know, kind of working towards something isn't the expectation. Okay, kind of understanding what has come before them is a huge thing in our program. You know, I tell our kids that they should always be true to themselves. Okay, that, you know, one thing that I always am with them is I'm always very truthful. You know, sometimes you're not always gonna like what I say, but I'm never gonna lie to you. Okay, like, you know, one thing that I learned, okay, from John and the other coach I've had is, hey, there's a, know when you need to give a kid a kick in the ass, when you give him a hug. And the kids know that. And I stand here before you with a heavy heart today. Okay, because, you know, tradition is something that we take very, very, very seriously. And I felt as though today was an opportunity, today was an opportunity for us to come together. Okay, for us to come together as a Hilltopper nation. Okay, for us to come together as one large family and celebrate a full day. And unfortunately, that didn't happen today on the field. And I want you to understand how much that bothers me. And that stems from our tradition of excellence. There's a level of expectation that comes along with this program. And one thing that our kids know, because not only are they playing for themselves, but they're playing for every one of you. They're playing for every one of the reps that you gave. Okay, they're playing for every tier. Okay, every cut. Okay, every bead of sweat. Okay, that there's more to this. And I assure you, okay, that not only this year, but the oncoming years. Okay, the level of tradition. Okay, the level of being a Hilltopper. Okay, what that means will never be lost. And that's what. So I will leave you with this. Like I said, I'm incredibly blessed to have this job. And I want you to know I don't take this job lightly. All right, it's something that means a ton to all of you in here. It means a ton to our staff. It means a ton to our kids. We recognize, okay, what has gone into this program in 130 years. And I assure you, we have and we always will, okay, represent ourselves, okay, to the best of our abilities. And these boys will always be proud of who they are and where they come from. Summit Hilltoppers, thank you.
As we end the program, there will be one more celebration, and it's the 1972 team. Fellas in the back, please. Thank you. Don't point fingers.
That's Hennig, John Hennig.
All right. I mentioned earlier in the program that the Hall of Fame committee has begun their selections, and they did select some football inductees. One being Willie Mallory, we talked about. Next is the 1972 football team. They will be inducted in the spring as well as the second football team to follow the 63 team. And two of the players, Mike Jemison and Brad Paxton.
That's right. That's us.
And we're going to finish up the program with Brad talking about the 72 team. Brad Paxton, please. Hello. Brad is a great player, a good coach, and he epitomizes the spirit of Hilltopper football. And Mike Jemison was not only a great football player, but he was also a great wrestler. All right.
Wow. Oh, man. What a night, huh? Is this incredible? Let me tell you, this is Hilltopper heaven, man. And we didn't even die yet, right? How great is this? Gil, the committee, everybody that, put this thing together, that we worked so hard. So much fun. So much fun. And I was thinking, I think tomorrow, if you have a couple hours, we should start planning the next one. We don't have to do it too soon, maybe 20 years, do the 150.
I won't be there.
But before I get started, I'm not going to take a lot of time. I timed this out. This is 10 minutes, so I'm gonna get through this. I want to give out a big thank you to Christy Paxton Sparrow, who is my daughter, and she runs this place, and she works so hard to make sure that this evening went smoothly. And Christy, stand up. Stand up. I love you. I love you. I'm in awe standing here now with a great sense of pride, honor, and humility to be in the company of 7 generations of Hilltoppers. Wow. And I always yelled this when I was coaching. Coached for 7 years with Jimmy, and I owe you, Jimmy, I owe you. I can never pay you back, and I love you. How about them Hilltoppers, huh? I'm telling you. Fired up now. Just an incredible event for all of us to share in the 130-year history of Summit football. It is the passion Hilltoppers possess that make us who we are. If you haven't read What is a Hilltopper, make sure you do to really understand the essence and spirit that defines us all. Eloquently written by Mike Paxton, co-captain 1991, my son, number 69. Mike, that's going to be all over, put up in the locker room. That's the essence, and you captured it. And that's my point.
That's it.
Love you, Dad. All right. It is a privilege for me to recognize the 1972 team's 50th season and remember the greatest team and game in Summit history.
Second.
Some may want to debate that, but please refer to the scouting reports that I distributed on the table. Okay? Documented in writing, as Jimmy Dietz indicated, by the architect of Summit football, Howie Anderson. Greatest team, greatest game, biggest win of all. In writing, on your table. 1972. My teammates are here, and get ready, guys. Little story first. Ready? Ready? The drive for 5 championships really began in 1968. This is where I would like to relive and bring alive the success of our season. In Summit, football was more than a sport. In Summit, it is a melting pot of family, fathers, sons, and brothers playing and following Summit football. The list is long. The Mallorys, Odells, Rias, Jemisons, Guidas, Ryans, Dunns, Esatellis, Carbones, Guatneys, Phelans, Horns, Fords, Flemings, Nelson, DeMoose, Jacksons, Bagsleys, Schroeders, especially if you need a quarterback. The Weebies. The list never ends. I could stand up here forever, but that's what it is. 68 began the consecutive conference title with Steve Schroeder leading the way as quarterback. My teammate and my very close friend, Dave Schroeder's dad, had a big open body truck named Arch Folly. Right? Remember that big beast? Every Saturday, 10 to 15 of us young future Hilltoppers packed into that truck at 316 Summit Avenue, and Art drove us to all the battles at Madison, Verona, and all suburban conference games. We bought in at a young age and aspired to play and follow our high school heroes, watching, learning, and hoping to be a part of many big games in our future. There have been so many in our history, and they've been mentioned tonight, and I want to honor the 63 team who is going to have an anniversary next year. God bless you guys. You set the standard in the way. And the 1993 Mendham Championship game is probably the second best. You can't argue with that. First 11-0 team, and they're going to celebrate their 30th next year. And my son was co-captain of that team, Ian Paxson, number 44. With another close friend of mine and son that I consider the co-captain of that team with Ian was Bobby Beckler, number 25. Yeah, Bobby! All right, the 1972 Summit football team had a heartbreaking season-ending loss in 1971 to avenge against the New Providence Pioneers. That one hurt, didn't it, Doogie? Still stings, right, Jeff? John? I hate those. I hate that. Green and gold, I can't stand it. I hold my breath when I drive through. Hey, and we kicked their ass. We kicked. Okay, so let's go on. Yeah, well, don't tell anybody. And then Carbone gets on me about moving to New Providence for family reasons. For my daughter, we moved there. And he calls me, oh, you're in Illinois. Pioneer, Illinois. Always a hilltop. But we're gonna move away from there real quick. That loss motivated a season-long dedication of commitment, discipline, and teamwork to achieve total supremacy. Led by co-captains Bill George and Mike Jemison, the season began with big wins against Group 4 powerhouses Piscataway, Passaic, and the drive for 5 and 5 consecutive Suburban Conference championships continued, beating Springfield 62-6, Milburn 28-6, Caldwell 41-0. See, there's a theme here. A lot of big numbers and a lot of goose eggs. Verona 9-0, Madison 20-7, West Orange 37-12. The championship season and goal of total supremacy was set for the game of the century, as they wrote about it, versus an undefeated 8-0 New Providence team on Thanksgiving Day at Leader Field. In front of a crowd estimated at 12 to 15,000 fans on one of the coldest days of the year, Summit struck first with an opening kickoff return by All-State Willie Wilson. New Providence followed with a TD drive to tie the score. Summit took control as the first half ended with a Brad Paxson touchdown pass and lead 12-6. The second half was dominated again by the 72 Hilltoppers with a 49-yard TD pass from Paxson to Wilson, and that play we put in at halftime. We drew up another play because we knew they would bite on it, and it worked. And a 2-point conversion to Bill George, Summit 20-6. The Hilltoppers finished the scoring and season with a back-breaking Wilson punt return of 51 yards that covered the entire field. Have you seen the film footage of that? And it's a sideline that Art Polakowski was standing on the sideline. Willie goes running by him. He knows that his team, Love New Providence, is going to lose the game. He takes his clipboard and he throws it down. Art Polakowski. It's on film. Incredible thing to see, right? Remember that? Yep. The 1972 perfect season proved unity and team strength through a dominant defense led by Bob Ginsburg, Dave Collins, Larry O'Malley, Dennis Holman, John Elliott, John Hyde, John Loggins, Rick Portine, allowing only 6 points per game, posting 3 shutouts. Offensively led by senior linemen Steve Hadley, John Reynolds, Larry Hayes, Fred Schmidt, and scoring 272 total points, 30 points per game. We're celebrating our momentous 50-year anniversary. This season, the final game is still remembered and spoken about today. So right now what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce and share some memories of that season with members of the team that are here tonight. So, number 34, linebacker, Mike Hayes, stand up, please. Small in stature, acted like a runaway fire hydrant. He returned from a serious knee injury, and back then, knee injuries, you were done. And that knee got tore up, right? I mean, and he came back and just played like a wildcat, man. Number 65, offensive lineman, Fred Schmidt. Freddie had quick feet, He was great at getting the second downfield block and perfected. Remember the flying body block?
Oh,
Yes. Do you remember how we used to practice that? Running down the field, we tore our bodies to block guys back. Yeah, well, Fred was the best at that. And Fred shared a memory with me. The memory is this: after we beat West Orange before the Providence game, Howie would write the score on the schedule, and we would all go crazy. You know, right after the game, right in the locker room, he'd write it down. So he wrote the score of the game, and he took the sheet off the bulletin board and he tore it up. And Fred remembers, he says, we were all stunned. He looked at us and said, gentlemen, the preseason is over, right? And Fred said he knew right then and there we were going to win. Number 33, fullback linebacker, co-captain, Mike Jefferson. I always show the films to my kids, and I always told Ian, if you're going to play fullback, this is how you play fullback, right, Ian? Ran like Larry Zonka as a fullback and hit like Dick Buckus as a linebacker. Both Hall of Famers, and now you are too. Congrats. Number 46, Rick 14. There you go. Linebacker. Yeah. He played the position like a cage mount line, ready and attacking any prayer opponent. He had a good memory. We had Bob Ginsburg. He's not here tonight, but he was the biggest kid on the team. Number 78. He was a lineman, offensively and defensively, and this kid was crazy. And we'd have the Friday night get-togethers, and then all linemen would get in one car or a couple cars and just drive around town. And John Reynolds also told me about the Tatlock 500. They go around the field down there with a cinder track, and you could catch, you could drive around, they can drive around down there, and then they end up on the practice field. And Ginsburg goes and he's nailing this, the 7-man sled, and they get out of there before the cops come, and apparently the hubcap fell off right by the 7-man sled. And so they go to practice, we go to practice, and John was hitting the sled, and there's the hubcap, and Howie found it, right? Howie found it, held it up, and he goes, I don't know who this belongs to, but it better not happen again. These linemen were out of their mind. Speaking of John Reynolds, number 71. Come on, bud. No team can win a championship without a red-headed Irish lineman. Thank God we had him. A fierce blocker, protected me always, and watch out if you pissed him off. John, and thank you for helping me contact everybody. You were a big help. Thank you so much. Number 85, tight end defensive end, Billy, you're already standing. Hands like glue. If you ask him, he's going to tell you he never dropped a pass. Never dropped a pass. And every time he came back to the huddle, Bill always let me know I was wide open. His memory was when we were on the buses pulling into New Providence, Roger Tremblay telling everyone on the bus, Coach Tremblay telling everybody on the bus, don't look at the crowd at New Providence. And as we pulled in, and then hearing him mumble when he got out of the bus, holy shit, look at all the people. And that was great too, because after that game, they dropped us off on Morris Avenue, and the team paraded down with the bus and the whole town. And I don't remember smoking stogies, but you do. Chip Twombly, number 16. Chip. Defensive back, punter, outstanding punter, averaging 45 yards per punt. He returned the same year after getting a very severe elbow injury and just kicked the shit out of the ball, man. You were great. Number 20, Jim Gross. Jimmy. Another running back in the stable of Hilltop backs. Fast, covered a lot of territory on all special teams, and on a personal note, Jim caught the last pass thrown in the 72 season. This time was running out on Thanksgiving Day, and we almost scored again, right, Jim? I'm going to put that one in. Last, John Coyne had to leave, but Rick Borbone's here, who's on that team. Just a sophomore. Both linemen contributing to the success of the 72 season. They paid their dues and enjoyed the 9-0 season of 72. And to finish, this team, this season, this game has and always will stand up to the test of time. Personally, it was a season of a lifetime and a privilege for me to steer the ship as QB12 and to honor this team tonight. Thank you. Hilltopper football was carved out a place to belong, to pass on to little brothers and sons, to walk back in time with nights of celebration like this. I am never done with this game, the only game in town, Hilltopper football. God bless you all. Gotta call up Nick Curiel. We have some special presentations.
Football class of '93. Love the challenge about the greatest Summit team. 72. Gil, we're going to flip the script right now. We're going to get in the lane, see past the bedtime, but we're going into overtime. Coach Benedict just threw in a play to us. We run the wedge. Upbeat Paris Ganzas with the tax and run the ball. So I was part of the '92 team where we played a 100-year game. So that's 30 years ago. So 30 years ago, we had some volunteers that have been in this program. 30 years later, they are still here, still helping every day. Tonight, I want to honor those individuals. I'm going to give you a little bit of a background on each one of them, and ask when I call your name, please come up. Your many years of contribution to recording and filming and the videos of Summit Sports is unparalleled. All documented and provided historical viewing for many events that we have here at Summit. Mark Wadman, please come up.
Me? Yeah, you.
Yes, you. Thank you. 30 years, thank you. It could be longer, but I don't know. This individual, your lifetime loyalty to Summit, with every Hilltopper sport that goes on in town. You're like the walking encyclopedia. Everyone knows you. You're a Summit legend. Andy Anderson, please come So when you look back at Summit football history and the state titles, you almost compare it to like the New York Yankees, 17 state championships. But you wonder, how did we accomplish that? So you think about it, every week the head coaches get scouting reports. This individual, your contribution to Summit football's success as our eye in the sky, always in the press box or scouting games, has provided the Hilltoppers with an edge to winning many conference and state titles. Phil Scheiposh, please come up. So this individual is more of behind the scenes. Your loyalty, dedication, and passion for Summit football defines the spirit of what is a Hilltopper. We're fortunate to have you as a lifetime teammate. Now this gentleman, every year, I think since I was in the youth program, has always been working on that poster for Summit football. Bill Finnegan. So this individual, is a legend in himself. I mean, he's an icon of this town. For every player that's come to the Summit football system, this man has turned, like Kevin Costos had said, you're made into a man, turns you into a boy, turns you into a man. I first encountered this person my freshman year, and when I tell you, he scared the shit out of me. I mean, he scared me into a man, a full-grown beard and everything by the time my sophomore year came. Leroy Horn, your guidance, support, and loyalty to the Hilltoppers never ceases. You're the Hilltoppers' own Iron Man icon. If we were in WWE, you were the Nature Boy. Leroy Horn, come on up. This next individual, I mean, his service to our Hilltopper Nation goes on for years. I remember him back when I was playing in the youth program. Your many years of service to Summit football as a player and coach have made you the backbone to Summit football. Rick Carbone.
Come on, run, Carbone, run!
Run, don't turn out a run!
Cracks me up. That's weird.
I'd see him
So this last individual, as I conclude, I'm going to throw it out there. There was maybe a month or two ago during the preseason, I talked to him on the phone. I'm like, hello? What's the matter with you? I'm like, what? So I was like, okay. I'm like, feel better. I'll talk to you later. So I called up Kevin. I'm like, holy shit. What's his name? What are we going to do? Gil Orn, your lifetime dedication and support of the Hilltoppers will never be matched. We are blessed to have you as the COO of the Hilltopper Nation. Thank you for all your work.
I have 2 words that I'd like to say. Yeah, baby! I love Summit football. I love each and every one of you. And this has been a great night. It's Summit football in space. Thank you very much for coming. And have a good night and safe ride. Thank you.